ghosts cannot possibly be real. It's a figment of your imagination. Well, it is sort of. I must admit, I do believe in ghosts, and I believe in them because of the amazing research that's happened over the last 20 years or so into the brain. Here's a thing called an MRI scan of a real person, and you can use the computer to kind of treat this person's head like an egg and take the top off it. Here's the brain. In fact, when you look at something, all the information is being processed on the back of the brain here. And it turns out your brain is tricking you the whole time. It's playing amazing tricks on you. When you're looking at me, there's actually a hole in your field of view. That's where the optic nerve is taking information from the retina, the light-sensitive bit at the back of the eye, into the brain. That hole is about the same size as it's equivalent of 6 moons worth. And yet you don't notice it because your brain fills in that bit with information from around it. Now when you read a book, you think that your eyes are moving gently across the page, but in fact they're darting backwards and forwards. They do something called they saccade. They're moving a few degrees, and they're doing it in about 50 milliseconds, 50 thousandths of a second. And in that time, if your brain let you, you get seasick. You see lots of blurry images. The brain's actually editing what you see to make sure that things look really smooth and so on. Your memory is very easy to trick. There was a great study done by Elizabeth Loftus in the States where she got loads of people and she talked to them about their childhood when they went to Disneyland. I think she was in California, so it must have been the Anaheim Disneyland. And she said, do you remember that moment when you sat on Bugs Bunny's lap? Bugs was lovely to you and he gave you a present and so on. A lot of people remembered vivid memories of, yes, I remember Bugs well. Now, of course, we know that Bugs Bunny is a Warner Brothers character. If Bugs Bunny walked into Disney World, he'd be shot on sight, basically. But what it showed you was that you can manipulate memory. You can change people's memories just by the sorts of questions you ask them. So memory is very malleable and so on. There's even stranger experiments. There's something called change blindness, which was studied most famously by a guy called Dan Simons at Harvard University. And he did astonishing experiments where he would stop people in the street and he would ask them for directions. And at that moment, he had a couple of accomplices who would move between him and the person with a big screen or a door, and he would be swapped for someone else. And that person could be much shorter, much taller, with a beard, female, different coloured jacket, everything. And 50 or 60% of the time, people noticed that there was a different person, but about 40 to 50% of the time, they didn't notice they were talking to a completely different person. Completely different person. It's astonishing. So, do you believe your brain? Well, I'm a little bit uneasy about knowing what I know about how my brain tricks me. And there's a way we can look at this with visual illusions. So, here's a famous visual illusion. This image isn't moving. This is called the Necker cube illusion. But if you stare at these, you'll notice that sometimes the cube seems to come out of the screen, and sometimes it seems to pop into the screen. So the only thing that's changing is in your heads. The reality stays the same. There are lots of other visual illusions like this, where your brain's got rules to try to make sense of things, and these rules break down. Here's another one. Some people really don't like looking. It's almost like you've got a lens there. But again, this is a static image. Nothing is changing. Any funny, wavery effect, it's all coming from, makes me feel a bit seasick looking at that one. And here's another one where, again, nothing's moving here. The only thing, again, your brain is tricking you in some way. It's not making proper sense of what you're looking at. Now, here's a picture of someone